Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call Amy Irvin here, Mike Simon,
Here.
Farzad,
Here.
Robert Laraway,
Here.
Leo is absent, Jeff is absent, and Jason.
Here.
Has everyone had a chance to take a look at your agenda? All in favor for approving the agenda? Doesn't look like we're making. Make a motion. Anybody see anything else they'd like to add? Moving right forward. How about the minutes? I was not at the last meeting.
I was not either. But I read it.
Yeah, I looked them over, they look like,
Yeah.
what I can remember.
That's next level to my list.
wrong with it either. I'll make a motion to accept them.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor? say
Aye.
aye. Those opposed, same sign. Passes. I do not have a report, Mr. Village Manager.
I'll partner with this, it's not working for whatever reason. In your package, you have a report, detailing just a few type of items going on right now. Probably the most pressing issue, beyond anything else, is the fallout from last Tuesday's election, specifically, road patrol services in Isabella County. While officially the end date is January 1st on that service provided by the county, the practicality is that it's already over. The deputies had banked up vacation time and leave time and, they're gone. They're not on the road anymore. So that leaves our only law enforcement coverage in the village being the state police for the time being. Yeah.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
Do you still call the county? Like, if you need the police, what do? You
Yeah,
still call the county and
Call
then,
central dispatch.
and then they route it out?
They will. Yeah.
And so alarms and stuff like that still go to them and then.
Yeah.
You gotta put something out like on the webpage or something that says, since this has happened, don't be afraid because you'll still get it for the police and stuff like that.
So we're gonna talk next Tuesday at council, a little bit more in-depth conversation about all options that are on the table for us. I don't wanna get ahead of that conversation yet, but. Yeah, I mean, the reality is you can expect very long service time. The sheriff was at our last meeting and said, lower priority calls. You might not see somebody respond to that, quite frankly, period. Civil stuff, you're not gonna see anybody come out and talk to you about that stuff. The sheriff's department handled 17,000 calls for service. Annually in the village, we have over 800 a year, so, yeah. I get it, people were very upset with the county's finances and, the the financial decisions that led to this issue, but the reality is, this is the consequence of not supporting that millage, so. We had a pretty bad traffic accident Monday morning right here on Coldwater Road. State police were the only ones that responded, and that was. Thankfully, they had, a couple of deputies that could block traffic for the fire department, but these are other things that come from that fallout of not having the sheriff, so. Things like, scene security for traffic accidents, when you've got any type of mental issue or a suicidal or domestic, you need a rescue run. Rescue and ambulance don't go in until law enforcement has given the okay, the scene is clear, so. Illegal burns, a lot of times they won't go on that anymore without a deputy or somebody present just because of hostility from landowners, that type of stuff, so. It's a mess, but yeah, we had a lot of conversations internally that I would say get us somewhere between first and second base. Like in a hellscape scenario, what are the what ifs that we need to start looking at? So we we had some discussions set up prior to the election to have, more in-depth, with, other communities, that type of stuff in the event that this happens, so, we're not starting from scratch on the options that we can present to the community, but, the reality is there's going to have to be a different type of look at this issue in terms of what services the people want and what they will support and what we can afford.
So you're not done with that conversation, you'll.
No,
proceed forward.
no, we, we've got a foundation of kind of the framework of the discussion that we want to reach out to the community and say, these are the options that are before us. What path do you want us to go down? And knowing that this is kind of what we would envision as the funding mechanism to support, A, B, C, or D, or whatever you want to do.
Mhm.
One of the things, you may remember 2 years ago as a community, we voted to support through a small tax increase dedicated road patrols for the sheriff's department. We still have, we chose not to levy that on this year's tax bill. So when we did our summer tax billing, we went to the council and said, what scenario is the better of the two options here? Scenario A is, in the event that the millage didn't get renewed, you put this on the tax bill, you collect it, and then the service is gone. Now you're sitting on, $40,000 roughly that you have to deal with. Or do you not levy it? Because you carried forward a fund balance from the previous fiscal year of about 15,000. That'll get you through the end of the year at least, which is when the millage is supposed to, happen. And if the millage gets renewed, we can pay for that out of our general fund. We can backfill that. To me, that was the more responsible choice than to tax the people to not be able to provide the service. And that was what the council agreed with. We still have about $4,000 to $5,000 left. We're projecting right now, mainly because there's not gonna be anybody that's gonna take the patrols November, December. We would have been close to zeroed out if we had deputies taking this month and next month. And I made that known to the sheriff, said, hey, if any of these guys do want to work overtime, we have funds available still here. But this carries on just beyond road patrols. This also potentially takes lake patrols off the table. We don't have lake patrols, we don't have fireworks. There are cascading effects to fallout here that, need to be made aware to everybody so they have an informed choice of what happens, so.
Impossible that, people will find other jobs.
Absolutely. When Montcalm County lost road patrol, they've never been able to restaff the department at full level. And when the sheriff was here at our meeting in October, he told us that, by the end of November, there would not be 24-hour coverage based on people finding other jobs, that kind of stuff. Well, the reality is there's zero coverage as of a week after the election now. So if you see a sheriff's deputy vehicle out there doing paper service or doing stuff for the courts at this point in time, so.
Will they revisit that, or don't you know? Do you
I don't
know
know.
much about the inner workings of Isabella County?
I know more than you might hear in a public meeting, but there is certainly an interest, I think, to present something to the voters again. That was one of the questions we asked is, what are the plans for the equipment for the department? And said, we're gonna hold on to it right now because the feeling, at least on the law enforcement side of the table, is that they're gonna want to revisit because the voters are gonna demand it be revisited. And I don't think that's a bad assumption. I think the reality is if they had proposed this millage in August, it would have passed. The August election, you had Commission on Aging, you had ICTIC, you had parks, you had all these other millages that were already in place being renewed. This would have passed then. Their failures were they ran their first millage, which was a horribly presented proposal during a presidential primary. And then they ran the big one during the presidential election when clearly the flavor of the electorate was change, on a broad sense. So I think they missed their opportunity in August. But that's neither here nor there at this point in time.
Now, the, once they're laid off, their state certification stays intact, right?
Correct.
And they can make up to half of their unemployment, still get full unemployment.
I don't know how that one works.
That's how it used to work.
Yeah.
In which case they could come, we could pick up a couple of part-time. And they couldn't make more than half of what their unemployment is. But even if they go to 40% of that, that's a hell of an increase for them. And it gives us access to deputies. So they don't need to be on overtime for us to be able to use them now.
The problem is the county is discontinuing the service. Like they're no longer going to be employed effective January 1st.
Right, which means they'll have unemployment.
Correct.
And we could still pick up one of them part-time. He's still state certified, we just have to supply him with the equipment.
Equipment, car, procedures, all, yeah, like we would have to actually create our own department.
Gotta code enforcement.
Maybe even benefits,
Yeah,
because if he's on unemployment, if he,
sure.
they may come out part-time, but they want some kind of benefit.
Correct.
Health and that
Yeah.
type of thing, I'm thinking of.
In 2021, I presented a report to the council that outlined a handful of different scenarios for law enforcement. One was, I don't know how familiar you guys are with like Barrington and it used to be Mecosta as well. But they have a small police department that is all part-time people, that is, people that are moonlighting from, the sheriff's department or wherever. That was one of the options that was presented in there. Another one was, you start your own department, but you have like one full-time and then a couple of part-time. And maybe reserves in there. So you have, more coverage. There was a contract option. There are two options there. There's realistically one other entity in the area that we could potentially have a relationship similar to the sheriff's department one with, based on their size and staffing. But Shepherd's gonna be too small. Tribal's not gonna do it, CMU's not gonna do it, you can't contract with the state police, so. Those are the ones that are out there, so.
Yeah.
And there's-
an education issue.
There's other layers to this too, like do we, we've tried in the past to start neighborhood watch groups. Are there proactive things that we can be doing as a community to at least have a deterrence, that type of visual deterrence? Are there things that we could reimagine the code enforcement position to be more of a community service officer position? And so you could deal with your civils, your, PDA, property damage, that kind of stuff. Nothing criminal, none of that stuff.
But he would have to have carry a gun or something,
No,
right?
CSOs don't
You could
typically,
just- Okay.
no. Animal control should largely be untouched. That's a position that is protected due to county constitutional requirements. But that's one officer doing just animal control through the whole county, it's.
That and pay for service, that's gonna. keep them tied
Yep.
up.
I apologize for this not working. I bought a new computer and this is the test run, and for whatever reason, it is not detecting the HDMI plugin for the other monitors, but with that being said, Mally's looking at the end of the month to start the dredging project. We added Charlie Keel to the Wall of Honor, former village treasurer. And whenever our next meeting is going to be, we are going to have a rezoning ordinance for you guys. The Cook property, which is across from Unified Brands, Randall, or whatever they are now. You may have seen a house being demolished there over the last few months. Well, that little 1 acre square was zoned Lake Residential 1. They demolished the house, they went to the assessor, they've had that brought back into the parent parcel, which is the whole field essentially, which is zoned ag. So now to be consistent, since the house is gone, we need to take that square that's LR1 and make it ag. So nothing big, nothing major. So that is all that I have for you fine folks.
Great, thank you. Mr. Laraway?
There's a couple of the small things that, yellow out of bounds at 50 Coldwater, which is the address. They, asked for a variance, a sign variance, they want to install a 24 square foot digital sign. Which is, on the same signpost they've got, it's just a little bit bigger. And we had, public comment on that, there was none. So that was approved, and now we're looking at all, changing the ordinance, if I remember right.
Yeah, so the council approved the variance, and then we're gonna also look at one of the 3 public hearings for this month's meeting. Is basically exempting time and temperature from that digital calculation size, because that,
There'll be more of those coming up.
yeah, that was the issue is, the gas pump or gas price digital sign counted against that digital signage. So I said, something like that is not a changing message, that type of stuff. So that type of thing, time, temperature, said, let's exempt that, because that's really not what we're trying to go after with our sign regulations, so.
So their request was approved. Again, no public comment on it. Discussions continue on the allowance of backyard beekeeping and chickens, keeping backyard chickens. There's going to be, we hashed that out, and Tim put together a scenario based on, I believe it was Holland's
Correct.
program, which the council discussed back and forth. They didn't have any real problems with it, so there are some backyard beekeeping and backyard chickens public comments going to be coming up. That's on when did we set those next meeting?
That's actually, yeah, 19.
The meeting was this Tuesday. And we're still in conversations about becoming a city. We've got we asked, I believe it was Roe, to do a mapping. When we submit the paperwork and everything to the state for cityhood, we've got to have an up-to-date map for streets and areas and boundaries, and Roe does an excellent job of that. So we agreed to have them do it. So we're moving forward with backyard chickens, bees, and becoming a city. 3 big things on the council plate right now.
Sounds like it. Would it come with a new zip code?
No.
Okay.
No, it's
No,
close
just
enough.
be an internal.
Pretty
gotcha.
much everything would be the same.
In the council holding a public hearing, it's 2 ordinances, 2 bees and chickens. The first one is beekeeping, which is, I think, probably got more support than chickens on the council. So the thought was that way the council could, say yay or nay individually as opposed to collectively, so. The first one is for the beekeeping and the second one is for chickens, so. I couldn't honestly tell you how that's gonna go.
If you're allergic to bee stings, you don't want to live next door if your neighbor's got them.
I don't think they leave their little honey hive. though.
Checking on the existing cities and towns that have that, but that has not been a problem.
No, I'm allergic to bees and my in-laws have them, and they've never been an issue, visited.
And,
Is there a size restriction?
Yeah, so we have a size restriction built in there in terms of the size of the hive and, you know, how many you can have, that kind of stuff.
And how much land you
Setback
have
from
and things
water,
of that
yeah.
nature?
setbacks from the law, you know, put that in there.
And we have them out there where I'm at, they come in and build a hive in the tree. And then you have to have the beekeeper come out and he
Mhm.
cuts it out and takes them and puts them in the, you know, in a hive. Cause it's, when they roam, one of the queens or something takes off and takes a whole bunch of them. We had 2 of those out there.
Honeybees?
Yeah.
Wow.
As far as the backyard chickens go, again, we'll have a public comment on it. Right now, the main drawback to that is that the few that are opposed to it are much more vocal than the majority of the people that are not opposed to it. But, you know, we will don't get the use, so we'll see what happens.
I don't wanna be in your shoes.
Issues?
Yours. Anybody at the village council meeting?
Yeah, well,
Final
I'm the
vote.
one that's been pushing for the backyard chickens well over a year now. So, reason I need them. We'll see how that goes.
All we can do.
Well, thank you for the report. I'm guessing there's nobody online. Is that a true statement?
Including us.
No, there's no way.
Okay, so we would not have any public comment and we have no public hearings. So I think next up would be our training session.
Yeah, put together just real quick, kind of, you know, nothing crazy, but you've got a scenario that is outlined in terms of a potential project. And just for fun, I base this conceptually on the original plans for the condos. So a little bit of Lake Isabella history in there for you. Originally, there were gonna be 3 condo buildings. There's only 2, or there's only 1 now. And where one of them was proposed, has been sold off as a residential lot. But I included all those original plans just so you can kind of, you know, see the folklore, the history of what could have been back in the day. But your scenario is a developer wants to build what would have been building C from that condo development. You've got the existing building there that's shaded. And the parcel, as it currently sits, is 8.5 acres and an 8-unit apartment complex is currently on the property. With the construction of a second building, it would bring the total number of units on the property to 16. The zoning ordinance places a threshold of 2 units per acre for apartment complexes. Property is on a residential street with a golf course along the rear and south. The zoning ordinance requires each unit to have an average dwelling width of no less than 20 feet. And each unit is required to have 1,000 total square feet. The proposed building is a 2-story structure with a basement that has a footprint of 4,240 square feet, 106 by 40. It's required to meet a setback equal to 1.5 times the height of the building. A 2-story structure with a 4 by 12 roof will have a height roughly of 29 feet from grade to peak. Part of the efforts to be environmentally friendly, the new developers are required to plant 1 native tree species for every 200 square feet of structure area. Ground floor units will have 12 by 12 patios, while the second floor units will have 8 by 12 balconies. As part of the marketing for the property, the developers propose to create a community garden with a shared tool shed for the residents to share. New building will be accessed by a new paved driveway with a double row of fruit bearing trees, apple, peach, pear, plum along one side. Assume the property has all the necessary permits from the health department for well and septic. The attached plot plan is required to show the location for both systems. Each is required to maintain a 20-foot setback from structures and property lines. The zoning ordinance does not address design requirements, lighting, additional landscaping, trash, however, they're all in the planning commission's purview by the catch-all phrase will be adequately serviced by essential services. It shall not be harmful to adjacent uses and property. What a great subjective standard, isn't it? Following page contains the Mox plan. So pretend it's building C from those pages. And nothing happens in a vacuum. The community is facing a shortage of workforce housing. The developer has been awarded a grant from the State Housing Authority to cover 50% of the construction cost, up to $400,000. Part of the application, the developer currently estimates construction to be at 1.1 million, which is the top end of their budget. To offset the high construction costs, the developer has mentioned a desire for their next project to create 3 new lots with dimensions of roughly 75 by 150 for either single-family homes or duplexes if they can secure a new brand. That is shown on the plot plan below as future lot A, future B, future C. Give or take.
Sounds good, let's do it.
It sounds like I need pen and
You
paper.
need
to
three-
sketch out
That's why I printed it all
all
up for you
the
guys. Look at
details.
that.
So what do you suggest we dissect it
That's,
piece by piece? So
just you guys dissect it piece by piece.
if it's 8 units and each unit has to have so much space. So a threshold of 2 units per acre.
So you're gonna have
So we're good
16
there
units.
because we have 16
You
units
have
on the
8
8.
currently, and you're adding 8, so the property's gonna have a total of 16 when you're done.
Oh, but we're still okay because we have 8.5 acres and we need 2 units per acre, so that would be 16.
Yep.
Units can go on 8 acres, so we passed there. Let's see. Unit sizes.
I think we're short on the square footage here, isn't
I think
Oh, but are we,
Sure.
Kimosabe?
it? Huh?
Are we?
each
This is an illustration on poor ordinance language as well. Because it says each unit must have 1,000 square feet.
Right,
If you add the dwelling unit size and the storage unit size in the basement, they're over 1,000. So is that what the ordinance says or not?
Mm.
Mhm.
So what page has that? The extra structure on it?
So the basement for the building is on page.
Yeah, that's what I'm on, is the basement.
Yep.
It looks like they're each just under 500 square feet.
This is on page sheet 6. I think. Yep, sheet 6. It looks like that. I'm gonna go get my other computer. I thought it just be safe. Yeah, because I know that works. It's worked for years.
They get something running for you.
What happens the night when I write the guys down here.
Correct. And typically, we can use the square footage of Zex and stuff too, right? Because when we're talking about space, even when it's up in the air, like an upstairs deck, that's still, we have that over on,
It's an interesting point.
I remember that being a thing.
And therein lies, I think, the importance of good language and
That
that,
or livable space.
is it habitable space or is it just space?
Or is it the space that it covers on the 8.5 acres? And, right, it might be different depending on which part of the ordinance we're speaking
I
of.
figured it was livable space. Which depending on the basement, if there's not egress, you can't go in it either.
Yeah, that's just straight up storage. Like you got your own little storage unit down there and you put your Christmas crap or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's unfinished with no egress window. I don't think this building's getting built. I think we need more information.
I think we need to turn this over to the city manager and have him.
No, you don't have one. You don't have one.
We don't have, one.
No, that millage was defeated.
Well, we can't use the basement, we can't use the decks.
I don't think we have the,
We don't have.
when I
enough
read
space.
average dwelling, that says livable space to
Livable
me
space.
too, but I think you're right about the verbiage and it leaves it to interpretation. One person may interpret that it's livable while someone else might not.
So in a scenario like that, who would be the best arbitrator or adjudicator of that issue?
The village manager.
Yeah.
You.
The guy who knows what gets
No.
done otherwise.
Let's get into that one.
There is a quasi judicial body empowered to determine and interpret the ordinance in these scenarios that your husband chairs.
Oh, the
The
ZBA,
ZBA, yes.
but the ZBA would say how they interpret the,
Yeah, that's how they have that authority. So if there's questions of ambiguity in the ordinance, the ZBA has the authority to interpret the ordinance.
Oh.
So if you have a practice established, let's say, you need to maintain that. So like one of ours here is, because we had so many things that were built prior to us having a zoning ordinance, whatever your degree of nonconformity is for your setbacks, we allow you to maintain it across the entirety of that plane and not consider that an expansion of the nonconformity. Other places don't let you do that because you're expanding essentially into more nonconforming space. We say, you know what, no, you've established your front yard setback at 15 feet. We're gonna let you continue to build, just not encroach further on that plane. But that is something that, we, I think, handle a little bit differently for reasons here because, we didn't have zoning for so long. But yeah, if there's an issue like that with each dwelling supposed to have this amount of size, that's a great thing for the ZBA to say, hey, does it mean total square feet? Does it mean dwelling? What does it mean when it says each unit must have at least 1,000 square feet? Going back to your observation on the parcel size, where might that be relevant in your discussion with the applicant?
you mean when it comes to all things, as far as there's going to be this shared, what was it, a shared garden space and the different things, or?
Well, the parcel is currently 8.5 acres, which gives you 16 units. There we go. Look at that. How may that impact their future plans?
Out of that 8.5 acres, you gotta take out the 3 lots too, right?
Bingo. So could he come back at you and say, hey, I wanna build 3 duplexes out here on the street on their own parcels? No, because if he does that, now that parcel's not gonna meet that 16, 8:16 ratio. So that's one thing that you need to talk to him about as well, is like, if you're gonna do, those duplexes, that you really can't, because now you're gonna exceed the amounts of dwelling space allowed on that parcel, and if you split those off, now your parent parcel is too small for the dwelling units you already have on it.
Mhm.
So did you pick up on those 3 lots just from looking at the thing, or did you read it in this?
Well, you
You
got,
just picked up
Yeah.
on this picture?
you got three lots of 75 by 150.
It's on your-
Oh, right here,
Yeah,
Yeah.
mixed in with the whole grant verbiage,
yeah.
so you zoom right past it.
Not like someone would ever try and slide something by like that.
Right,
No.
oh, and we're.
'Cause I'm gonna come back and say,
offset the
hey,
cost
You,
with these
you
3.
saw that on my plans, the future A, B, and Cs, that was the approval, right? Oh,
Yeah, that never happens.
no, never.
Yeah, and then it is, I mean, plain as day once you start talking about it on
Mhm.
the next photo. But you would have to shut that down as part of, so how would one sign off on that? Would they, just later on, they would know, well, you don't meet, or you'd have to shut it down right in the beginning stages?
Yeah, the way it should be handled is in the minutes for the meeting. It should reflect that this was discussed by the planning commission, the planning commission acknowledged that no approvals are being granted to the proposed A, B, and C, because that would necessitate a variance to either have a parcel that is less than 16 acres or 8 acres have 16 dwelling units, or, exceed that ratio by having, 3 more duplexes. So you then have, 22 on an 8-acre parcel.
Mhm.
So the setback is the 48 foot.
Correct,
Right?
so,
So you meet that requirement.
well, do you? The ground floor's got 12 by 12 patios, the upstairs has 8 by 12 decks. So you gotta assume that that's actually 40 feet maybe for the upstairs, unless it's cantilevered out. So is that something you need more information on or not?
Oh, yeah.
Because if that's in the ground and it's 40 feet. And your height is 29 times 1.5 is
43.
bingo.
43.
Yep. So they only gave you the front of the building picture.
So we need more information.
You definitely, yep.
Check that one off.
Yeah, and I remember that being an issue over on whatever drive that
Yep.
was, that even though it was up in the air and extending out towards the water, it was still considered.
Yeah.
For the setback.
Now, a simple one is they don't have enough trees,
Yes, they definitely don't have.
and not all
any
those are
trees.
native species I listed.
Right. need 43 or something, or 21, and they don't have any,
You don't have any details on the shed.
right?
From a practical standpoint of how they've laid out the utilities, just the well and the septic, what jumps out that could concern you there?
I see the tanks, but I
I'm
don't
not
see
seeing
the
the
well.
I think the well is. I'm pretty sure the well is this little guy right here.
Oh,
Well, that right where,
This little dot right here is the well.
mine says, I thought that,
I don't have that little
I
dot.
thought that was a measurement. Or
Yeah, it looked
like
like
6.
6 degrees or something.
I think it's.
I mean, the biggest thing would be it wouldn't.
It could be a 6, yeah. Let's just say the well's not showing. Yeah, you're right. I think that's, yeah, I apologize. It's a 6. So yeah, well's not showing anywhere.
No, I don't see the well.
Well, the water. The water had shown its dotted line.
Oh, this line right here.
That's the sanitary
That's
line.
the sewer coming
That's
out.
the sewer coming out with the tank and the absorption bed, and the biggest thing would be getting your. Getting your footage, between the absorption bed and the well.
Right, I was thinking that too. I don't even see where the well could be to be. Unless you put it on one of these other lots somewhere, but how do you get it so many feet off the road, so many feet off the water, and so many feet from all of the other?
I think there's another issue with that line though, too.
Yeah. With what line?
The line coming out of the building going to the tank.
Why? Because it's under the road?
On the parking lot.
On the parking lot.
Yeah.
And my concern that I would bring up is. That's an area that you would preferably avoid running water or sewer, because once you plow it off, the frost is gonna get deep in the winter.
Yeah.
So if you could run that north out of the building, so you're not gonna be potentially freezing that line or require it to go down, you know, however many feet to get below the frost line.
Does that, or they put insulation across it?
Yep.
The best way to do it, I mean, you're still gonna be under the drive.
Yeah.
Would be to, yeah, take it to the north.
Or run it through that common area to the south that's, you know, just green space, you know, that you're only crossing the drive part.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, I would agree with
I
that.
don't think they have to hook together either, do they?
What's-
Can't
what's
well, they're
the,
sharing a drain field.
can't
It's
the
all
one go to the
absorption.
drain field and the other one come up and over and go to the drain field? Do they have to hook together?
What do you mean?
The way that they hook together out.
Right here, they
Yeah.
hook together to go into the field. Can one go in it this way and bring the line out and go in up on the top? They have to all go right
They-
together.
That I don't know,
Yeah, I don't
but
either.
they all got their own tank, and typically when you set your bed, you're setting your bed with a certain inlet, right? So you're either going depending on how it lays, your pipes are,
So you gotta put it together. They have to go together, basically.
yeah, I mean, you
Unless
want it
you have
all,
two absorption beds.
or that, I mean,
This is looking overly crowded to me.
No, we would never see that. And if you actually go and look at the original drawings for the project,
The shape of the lot does not help at all.
This view in particular, the more I started to work on this exercise, going off of those drawings, like, yeah, none of that's possible based on, what was built and, like that. Once you go and actually try and take that design and put it on the GIS, it doesn't work, but, yeah, I mean, the point of this was, you're gonna be faced potentially with projects that, there's gray area, there's ambiguity.
Hmm.
If you're not certain, go to the ZBA. If you think they haven't displayed the stuff you need to, you're well within your right to require them to come back with updated drawings. I don't think we're gonna be faced with a political, push to approve a project that is questionable. But that certainly is not the norm in other communities. If, you have a big project that could come in and you're starved for development, there could be pressure on a planning commission to, be a little lax, let some things slide, because maybe we really need this. This is gonna help, we need these extra houses, that kind of stuff, and, it's just not a good practice, so. Yeah, I thought it was just neat to put these plans in front of you, so you could see what was thought of at one point in time.
I think this is the most complex thing we've seen to date.
The thing I was disappointed in looking at these plans was there wasn't elevations for that building C. Cause if you look at the plot plan, buildings A and B down here, those are the ones that have the offset like we currently see, the condo unit we have. Building C is a rectangle, it's barracks.
What's over there now? Just one?
Just one building.
Yeah. that's what
Yeah,
I
just
thought.
one. I thought this was actually kind of neat that you're gonna have dedicated storage units down here in the basement in that building for your 8 units. So you got 4 on this side, 4 on that side, and
But you don't access from your house, right? You actually have to go to common area to
Yeah,
get
so-
down there.
in that
Storage.
building C, there were 2 stairwells.
Oh.
So you had these stairwells that you would be able to get to the second floor or down to the basement. So you have these units that are these sizes here, second floor plan, building C. That's building C was this design here. And that was the side profile. So you had these stairwells that all the way down to the basement, all the way up to the second floor.
Mhm.
Which I really don't think you could pull off over there. You'd have to jack that building up quite a ways for floodplain and drainage, I should say.
You would, yeah, you
Yeah.
definitely would. And that would bring you right back to when you can't even access from inside your unit.
Yeah.
That can't possibly be counted in the square footage. For
Yeah.
that, because it's like the luxury of having your storage unit right below you, but you still
You
have
gotta
to
go down
go to your storage.
20
unit.
steps to get there,
Right. It's like great that it's there, but
Mhm.
it's no different in my mind than it being across the street at the
Yeah,
storage unit.
right.
How many units are in the condo unit over there now?
8.
8, that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah, so it's 8 and they're 2-story. The 2-story unit over there, so those.
There's been quite a bit of construction over that way too, so as other things got built, I can't imagine if all of a sudden all of this was on that funky shaped lot.
That lot's actually pretty big back there.
So, I mean, I've never been over there and walked around or done anything, I'm just thinking what I've observed. It's a neat concept.
I thought it was fun because it's not a commercial project to deal with. You know, you do site plan exercises, gas stations and strip malls and that kind of stuff. It's like, here's an apartment building. Well, that's what the parcel is now, is that size.
Yeah, it's just such an awkward shape.
Yeah, so the original plans, building A was supposed to be kind of over here and building C had right here. And this, I think, was supposed to be slid over a little bit more because the drive was supposed to come in like this and go behind, and then they show the drive going up here. So this was before it was 18 holes. It was still only the front 9 over here. Was when those plans were drawn.
So this is very old.
Yeah, these are the original plans from like 74.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And things may not have been as, I mean, obviously,
Sure.
we're strict, but as far as the health department, the way they make you
Oh,
go into your
sure.
septic tank and stuff, that's gonna be totally
Totally
different
different.
today.
Totally different.
Because today, they're almost every set of plans, you have to have space for a second.
Yeah.
If this goes bad, you need to be able to move it to. a totally
Auxiliary
different
reserve
area
field,
on
yep.
your
Are we online?
Yeah, we are.
Oh, never mind. I've learned a lot this week over grinders and stuff. Grinder pumps. I was gonna say something about them, but keep it to myself.
Well, this really gets you thinking, Tim.
Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Right. Well, but it's a ton of information to dissect, and it even, like you said, it goes into the fact that we need to be very, very thorough. We need to know what we're reading, and sometimes it's okay to need more information.
Yeah.
And this can't really be done in 1 hour.
Oh, no,
This was far more information than one could
Yeah,
really dissect in an hour.
yeah. You know, so like in our site plan review process, we put in there, you know, it's not required, but it's highly encouraged to have like a, you know, conceptual meeting, a pre-application meeting. Just so, you know, staff can go through and say, you know, no, you don't meet the trees. No, that like all these finer points that we needed more detail on for us to catch and say, all right, you need to update these drawings with these items here before you go to the planning commission. You know, hardest part was finding a building that would look something like what it was supposed to, in terms of just the design of the building with the double stairwell but, you know, that's essentially what they were gonna build, was that type of building right there. Cause you had both units accessed off of the stairwells. So, yeah, it was a weird look. It was so different than the other building too, but.
Yeah. And if they put it on a different spot, so after all of a sudden they decided, okay, we can't do this, so
Yeah.
we're gonna go ahead and just build one. Change the look up and put it in a different spot. Is it not still the same owner these days?
So the condos are individually owned. So there's
Oh, okay.
8 units, each unit has an individual owner.
But there's not a developer out there anymore that's even
Nope.
worrying about.
No, that, the rest of the property is owned by the Maury family,
Oh, okay.
so.
We need this at 8 AM next time instead of 8 PM.
Yeah, that's Thursday. You gotta be a day early.
No, I know. I'm just thinking, oh, my brain is mush by this time. Anything else on the training piece?
Nope, that was it.
Okay. Existing business, the 2024 proposed zoning code amendment.
So last month's meeting, we did kind of a walkthrough of all the different areas that have come up for some type of discussion in the last 2 years, almost at this point in time. And so I've taken that and put it into an ordinance form. And I found it's easier just to do each section as its own kind of standalone appendix as opposed to trying to run it all together. So the way I would recommend that you guys kind of work through this is, you know, knock off whatever, you know, A through J you want to tonight. Do the next ones at the next meeting, and then schedule your public hearing for whatever you decided you wanna go forward with. Unless,
I'd like to talk about storage sheds tonight, if we could.
well, that is, under F. I don't care if we go through it,
How do you wanna do it, Sherman?
yeah,
Wait till next time to discuss it, or how you wanna follow the process?
I don't, have a preference,
I don't
as
care
long
how
as
you
we
do
get
it.
through all of them on the timeline that we are expected to get through them.
Yeah, put it on a sequence, so I guess if we go like you're suggesting. Just don't let me forget, make sure I'm not sick that night. And we don't have to worry. But we have to go through and approve all these before they can be sent to the council, right?
correct, yeah, so right now we're wordsmithing. Once you're satisfied with a document, we can hold a public hearing. You can hold a hearing at any point in the process, quite frankly. You could do it next month and continue to wordsmith afterwards.
Now, what page did you jump to, Mr. Simon?
29.
Oh geez, yeah, you really jumped forward, didn't you?
I mean, I
The
think
rest
like,
of it was boring.
I think appendix A is pretty straightforward. I don't think there's any big hot contentious items there.
Clear cutting.
I mean, clear cutting and I don't think there's a lot in B that necessitates a lengthy review. Or C, quite frankly. D, fences and walls. That was garden fences was the bulk of those changes, and that stems from, she never showed up, but what, May, June, we had a resident from DeQuessa come in that wanted to do a garden fence, but the way their home is situated, all the way back on their property, they have nowhere to put it except their front yard. And
And the deer. She
And the
just-
deer, yeah,
Deer,
you know.
what she tries to plant.
And, you know, I thought about this, like, you know, we have a lot of other properties that's probably applicable, you know, if we can. If we're going to become more permissive on being locally sustainable with your food option through bees and perhaps chickens, this seems like something that would be consistent with that type of mentality.
Right, I mean, I'm not sure that all of us wanna have our front yard fenced in for a garden, but
It would,
people are definitely heading
Yeah.
towards the more sustainable
Yeah.
options for themselves.
Yeah.
you know, the only thing I would think that would be something to think about is, do you wanna put a square footage cap on front yard garden fence areas? So that they can't do the whole yard.
What's? I didn't have a chance to. Look this part over, but what's the? What's it say on? The type of fencing? Or isn't there one? If we're talking about garden fencing,
Well, it's
it's
like
gotta be in the
supposed to
front of
be
your yard.
uniform or complementary materials and design, which leaves it open a little bit, because at one point we said things need to match. Well, what matches for one person isn't a match for another.
So garden fences may utilize hog wire or deer fence netting for the full height of chicken wire to a height of 24 inches.
24 inches? Can't the deer get over there?
2 feet. So the chicken wire is the,
To stop the chickens.
so you can 6 feet, you can do hog wire, you can do deer netting to 6 feet. In the
As
6
tall
feet
as
tall.
you- Yeah,
Yep. For 2 feet, you can do the chicken wire, which is the smaller, so that's gonna keep your squirrels and chipmunks out.
I gotcha.
So you can do that along the bottom to keep them out, and you can do a whole 6 foot deer netting and then 2 feet on the bottom with deer netting and the chicken wire. If you want.
Well, I mean, there's no stipulations, I mean, they can throw stakes, whatever, make circles, make. In your front yard.
Yeah.
There's no design that they have to follow, is that what you think?
Well, I'm just looking at some of these other items that are people are opposing, but we're gonna okay. If there's the thought of
It's not
okay.
permanent either, I think, so I think people are gonna, to some degree, people will just do it. If it's not a permanent, if you're talking about that plastic deer fencing, like what I have in a picture in my mind of what that would look like. I do think that people would say, well, it's not permanent, so
Well, you can use any type of metal T-post and really say it's not permanent.
I know.
And throw those some cheap
Are they
wire.
required to get a permit for any one of these,
For deer fences, yeah.
for fences around the garden?
Yeah.
Oh, good, I like that.
Yeah,
I gotta
They
go,
don't, I mean, most people don't, but
for 8 years I haven't, but it's a real small area.
exactly. Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. If you're gonna let it go in the front yard, I would certainly think that having some design, requirements, not using metal posts, those are
I just,
pretty reasonable things in my opinion.
talk about a chain link fence in somebody's backyard.
Yeah.
And you're gonna oppose that, but you're gonna okay somebody throwing this janky thing in their front yard.
No, I'm not arguing that point at all, sir.
I mean, that kind of sounds like no brainer, but that's just me.
Yeah, I can work on that wording. I'll bring something back to you guys.
You're gonna talk about
so
sign.
it
you're gonna-
does say that the gardening, it has to come down when the season is over.
We can leave the posts up, right? Isn't that what we
Garden
decided?
fences shall be removed in the area enclosed. If the area enclosed is not used for gardening for a period, for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
plant a tomato plant in it every year, you're good.
Yep, leave a weed or two and. Yeah.
Now, cultivate weeds, so you're gonna look at size and shape or
Size and,
aesthetics of it.
yeah, aesthetics for front yard particularly, yeah.
yeah, I think,
Would that be like a percentage of the yard? Because, you know,
Well, the percentage, yeah,
Yeah.
we do that.
25% or whatever.
Percentage. Size. Yeah. Yeah, and I can look at and come up with. Like, these are the size of the front yards, that we have in different areas of the village and. Whether it's 5% or 10%, a reasonable,
Yeah.
a reasonable size. Cause if you look at.
I can think of a house where I know that they have this cute little raised bed and then they did it, but it looks real cute and it's small and it just has several tomato plants in it. That they're protected from the deer, but it matches their house and everything. I think it sits right next to their driveway and,
The fence matches their house, know what you're talking about?
well, I can't remember.
The raised
the
bed
fence.
probably does.
The raised bed matches the house, but then the fencing of, I mean, if I had to guess, I would say it's 3 feet wide by 10 feet long or something. It's just whole housing tomato plants off to the side of their driveway. And from the road, the fencing itself, I don't really think you can tell what it is because it's kind of see-through almost. So
So,
it definitely could open
Is
it
this
to.
the zoning board of appeals, is this something that should be not tried to define by us for the front yard and turn it over to them when somebody says they want to do it? It's like an approval type thing that we have to go through. Or even us, I mean, it comes to us and we talk about it and
That's
look at
great.
the pictures and.
that's a $300 application to go to the ZBA.
I honestly don't think anybody who's putting a garden in comes to,
Well, that's where
And gets
that's
the
where
permit. I
I'm
think they
saying
just
that the
do it.
people that put the gardens in,
they're just.
I'm not trying to,
I agree.
that's, you're gonna get something.
Oh, yeah.
So, 1070 Bundy Drive, former resident of the Urbans. Front yard at this address is roughly 166 feet wide and 66-ish feet to the front property line. The GIS is not right in that area, which comes out to 10,790 square feet is what the urbans used to and the wolves currently have for a front yard. Cause you used to live in my house years ago.
Yeah, we rented.
You
it when
rented
we
it.
Built our house.
That's right. So 10% of that is is 1,000 square feet. You know, that's a pretty big,
Yeah, they
Who
got,
wants to weed
Because-
that?
it's gotta
Yes.
be lots
If
small.
if we're talking, I don't have anything against gardens, but if we're putting up gardens, why can't they put a garden in the backyard?
well, in this instance, in particular, they don't have a backyard. I'll take you to them. And I'll do you one better and I'll drive by their house on Google Earth. So this is the place and we're talking about right here.
So that their backyard is their property line and then that whole front thing
Yeah.
is their front yard.
These pine trees are gone now. They got rid of those, the previous owners did. But their garage is back here. All of this is wooded.
Oh.
You know, their only space is literally their front yard. And because we did our Google Street View project, I can show you exactly what it looks like. That's what it looks like. Yeah. Good luck growing anything back there.
Yeah.
See that?
Oh, she
I
has
can-
some little garden beds there
Yeah.
though, aren't they?
Yeah,
That I can see. Doing something like this for that one,
Yeah.
but you take some of these other ones where you got the nice front yard, and they say, okay, I wanna, you know, your life there.
I guess that's,
I kind of-
Is there a reason we couldn't just do something special for this particular instance?
that would be typically the variance route, which is
Yeah.
the $300 application. You know, that's,
I guess the biggest thing is, how often do we really see it? So did somebody drive by her house, see those little garden things fenced up and stop and tell her that she
No.
had to do something with the new fence or?
no, she came in to get a fence permit, like, I can't give you a fence permit because you're putting a garden fence in your front yard.
Ah, I see.
Well, good enough, but-
Because we had,
Imagine those things sitting in their front yard. It just doesn't, I can understand it, but there's a lot of places that they can, it just doesn't fit.
so
The
here's a,
neighborhood with the
The
aesthetics.
backyard was full of chickens.
I just don't think that many people are going to
here's another,
fence off their front yard for a garden.
Yeah, but you can't decide that you don't think many people are gonna do it, because then all of a sudden, oh, bunch of people do it.
I mean, you would think certain areas
Like putting a dog.
With
pen
this-
up front.
with the, say, the size of your,
yeah, it should look familiar. On Bob Street. So their garden fence contraption initially, which you can see here, was way out here, like, nope, you can't have that in your front yard, you gotta push it back, people.
Which they did,
Well, they did. They
and
went
now there's different people living.
Are there? You know, thankfully we caught that one before they had brought dirt or anything and they just started putting up, it's like, no, time out, stop.
Oh, shoot.
And they're not even using that now.
Are they? Yeah,
and that was a dog pen or?
No, garden fence.
Garden.
we're just doing garden fences.
So in that theory that they're not using it now, to approve some of these, get it so they can put them in the front yard, and they sell the house, are we gonna require that they take it out and restore it?
Yeah,
Or they
Well,
can
it
have
says
that
after
sit
a
there?
year,
so we had that,
Yeah, 1 year.
Again. So I put a tomato plant in it.
right,
this house here for years had a giant garden fence over here.
Hmm.
This is on DeQuessa. It is now gone because the new people don't garden, you know. I have no dog in this fight, folks, like,
And I don't.
all these concerns are very valid.
Right, we know that the deer are an issue and if you're trying to do something, but. So nowhere in here right now, they cannot put a fence in their front yard. So we're,
Garden,
Garden.
yeah, garden fence.
And the issue you run into on the garden fences is the height, so. You know, those are ones we let you go to 6 feet on versus. You know, a picket fence in your front yard is 4 feet
And size.
inside, yeah, you know.
Somebody could try to be the farmer. Take up his whole front yard, fence it in, start growing corn, lima beans, and
Cannabis. I don't know.
are you able to put fencing around fruit trees? No,
People do. It's certainly not a fight that excites
I
me,
just wondered.
yeah.
the deer are a problem.
Mhm.
They actually put a rub on my brand new tree at the water.
Hmm.
A great big rub down the tree.
I wrap my trees.
And they attack the little windmill thing that's in front of it to scare them. They just keep breaking it off and throwing it in the yard.
Yeah, here.
They are fearless, you can't scare them.
Oh, yeah.
You kinda know, somewhat know that coming in, right? That. This wildlife out here and.
I've had pretty good luck with deer away, except your yard smells like
Yeah,
wolf urine or something, you know?
Yeah.
The only thing I found is that liquid fence.
Yeah.
but you gotta put that on all the time.
Constantly doing it.
Yeah, you gotta do it constantly.
Well, I think, Tim, I think backing up to the fence. Why don't we put a few stipulations and we'll revisit the whole fence
All right.
thing again, because
Not a problem.
I think that could be. Something that. It's hard to know what to do here. But outside, so then the rest of that's fences. And then we get to. What is this next thing?
Appendix E, is that what?
E is.
Single family dwelling, or slab grade meeting.
And we had went over all of this and made these changes to the daycare, what LR they're in and all of that.
Yeah, E, the barn dominium part that's okay. And then I was thinking of what are additional options we can give people in terms of design standards. So one that I thought of in that box where we have, you know, pick one or pick two is add a side entry garage as one of those options. So that, you know, that's a low cost alternative, I think, to some other stuff. You know, so you can do that and you can do a gable end, you can, you know. And clear it up that you can do second floor windows as opposed to just dormers. And then we cleaned up the offset language too, that was kind of confusing the way it was written before. I think this is a clear illustration of, you know, and we bumped it to 40 because 30 by 40 is 1,200 square feet, which is our LR1 required dwelling size. So to us, that made sense that you would be able to do the 40 and then your garage can bump out to be the offset, so.
Yeah, and we spent a great deal of time on this, so I feel pretty comfortable with. with those changes, and I think there was one other, and I'm sure it's just not jumping out at me, but the aesthetics, when we found that something backed up to the woods, we had kind of,
Yeah, I think that's in, yeah, that's where we're.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I knew there was somewhere in there that we had discussed making some changes to that. So what do you guys, do you want to do F? And since Mr. Simon was itching to get to that, and then call it an evening and pick up at G
Yeah.
next meeting?
So are we good all the way up to F?
I think so.
With the, obviously I gotta come back with something different on, you know, garden fence, yep.
So we had, really taken a dive into the whole garage stuff and what matching meant and what all the different things. I'm sure that you heard about some of the things where there was a certain garage that was built during COVID that it caused it caused some friction in the neighborhood.
Council member.
Yeah, so we did revisit that to try to really shore up what some of the verbiage meant, and that's many hours spent on that. But if you find something else that we should talk to Tim about.
Are you talking above and beyond what we talked about last meeting?
Probably not.
As far as, then we talked about similar, we talked about possibly, was it steel siding?
Yep. Yeah, that's,
Whether you end up, when you're talking aesthetics, if aesthetics cosmetic, same color or same material.
Yep.
And we haven't,
everything we talked about last month is in.
Unless somebody has something else on E.
I'm still struggling with the whole concept of storage sheds on vacant parcels. I can sit here in my mind and just, understand that we say, okay, we don't think they're going to. But we all know what we don't think somebody's gonna do, they're gonna do. And the looks of a shed on the property, if it's like between you, they can be really nice sheds. I mean, you can really, but you're limited to size, which is another question. But you can have really nice ones, but you can have pretty crappy ones too. And I don't know if we can go in and say, that's a pretty crappy shed, get rid of it. Okay, well, can you go down to Home Depot and buy a shed? It's got colors, it's got vinyl siding, it doesn't have to have a flooring or anything like that. So you take a Home Depot shed and set it out there. And say, oh, it's rock and roll. That's my concern, that it just grows.
I thought a shed on a vacant lot was not permissible.
That's what we're making it
we're making
permissible.
it.
So, yeah, that was the discussion we had last month.
Oh, okay, and I did miss the meeting last
Yep.
month.
Yeah. So that's the one where you said that we were all positive toward it.
So my question would be, what if, assuming we want to do it, what if we had like now I want to say a pattern book, because that's a little bit more detailed, but these are, the 4 or 6 you can pick if you're under an acre, and these are the 4 or 6 that you could also pick if you're over an acre. So we control all those aesthetics then.
So like, for example, the very nice looking shed that had to be removed. It would be something like that we would permit that versus having your tubes and stuff just laying out.
Yeah.
Tied to a dock over
Right.
here. I personally like that idea, and I especially like the idea of a plan book that says. These are the styles
Yeah,
that you
so-
can choose from.
You could do something like this.
But I can understand the economy, the economizer shed, you know, that's the cheapest
Yeah.
version that they end up
Yeah.
and
Right.
throw on your. But,
you know, but maybe not this down here.
Right.
Kind of branching off on that, though, I do have a question on why do we have two sizes of sheds? If I got over an acre, does that mean I got more mowers I gotta put in there, or I got bigger boats I gotta put in there, or just because I own more land, I get to have a bigger shed?
I thought it was more, if it was a vacant acre, you were downsizing the size. If it was a vacant, not a vacant acre, a vacant lot, you were downsizing the shed. Rather than if you have a household on it and you put a shed
You
on it.
have a bigger shed at your house.
Yeah,
Where you have more things.
Here we have them by size on a vacant lot.
yeah, I think what we talked about at the meeting was, you know, 240 was your current shed size that you could do if you have a house. And I said, you know, what if you know, cap that at half size for smaller parcels, so you don't have, you know, the bulk of a bigger structure on a smaller chunk of land versus you got 4 acres, you can do a 240 and it's, you know, you're gonna be set back further, so.
We're penalizing somebody if they don't have an acre.
Sure.
Just because they don't have an acre. I mean, someone that has more than an acre, they can have a bigger shed. It's not gonna make any difference between
Yeah,
the
I would
two.
think that if it's a vacant lot, it's a vacant lot, maybe do the setbacks. Different on a vacant lot where you're trying to. Your goal is to put it somewhere so they have less area to just. Flop one.
And I lean more to the smaller square footage, not the higher square footage.
Which I thought we addressed that last meeting, that we were gonna go a little lower.
Yeah, the way I took from last meeting was, you know, half the current ordinance size for smaller parcels and then the regular 240 for bigger parcels, but you can change that however you want.
I think if we're gonna put it on a vacant waterfront lot, a shed, it should be uniform then.
Sure.
If we're gonna have that, then that narrows it down to what they can choose and
Mhm.
might make it a lot easier for me to swallow.
Well, you know what, the other beautiful thing is there's barely any vacant lots left. So
Where
because
do you live?
on the water,
Where do you
There's a lot of that.
where?
Go down Clubhouse,
All the
come on
things
by.
too.
It's what's not on the water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't, but how many vacant waterfront lots do we have left?
Oh, I
Several?
probably got 19 where I'm at.
yeah.
Well, no, I shouldn't lie. I probably got 15 where I'm at.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they're all, lots are
Are
all
they for
sold.
sale?
They're all sold except for one. A lot of people bought them for investment. They live in Chicago, they live in Fort Wayne, Indiana. They're all young.
It looks
business
like that
people.
they're building that on all of those down there. They're not?
They're building on 2. One is way over in the corner on Rowland Road,
Mhm.
and then the other one's right behind me.
So are there more that go behind there?
Okay, there's,
Can you pull it up?
16,
Because
17.
I didn't realize there was
Okay.
15 vacant waterfront lots back
yeah,
there.
right there. is what
Yeah,
you're
there's
looking
this-
one right there.
This one's being built
at.
on,
Right,
this one's being built on,
right.
this one is not buildable on. The
Well, it's
one,
190 for a not buildable lot.
you know, 1, 2, 3.
So I
4.
guess maybe when I was down there last to me, it looks like it's part of the next guy's yard then.
I think we made it in Whispering Pines.
Because it
and-
looks like it's
Yeah.
just like all of these are being bought up and that there isn't much
Speaking of
left.
waterfront lots, is this just set for waterfront lots, vacant water?
No,
water-
vacant
or
property,
Any lot in general?
any vacant lot.
Sorry, I thought it was talking about waterfront lots.
No,
That's why I
vacant-
saw that
it's
somewhere in
vacant.
here. Maybe I
So just
saw-
between Whispering Pines and Pueblo Pass, are you probably at 30? You come down here on Clubhouse, that's got a house. These 2 are vacant, vacant.
So, but they're not for sale. Maybe that's why I'm
Sure,
thinking that
yeah.
there isn't much left that is.
Yeah, I
To be
think in
bought
terms
and built
just
on.
of that south end of the lake, you'd probably. you'd be north of 60 waterfront parcels that are vacant. South of Birdie.
Hmm.
Once you factor in Peninsula, Northview and Channel and all that. When you get up north here on Clubhouse, there are, what, two-ish in this area? On Fairway, there's one over here left.
There's just been so much construction, and when you see one go up, and I just assumed that the next one was,
You got
Sold.
one, you probably got 4 or 5 total up here at El Camino.
Be facetious there.
oh no, I'm just trying to figure out how,
kinda
I
got
didn't
going there
realize
and I
there's
didn't
that
do
many out there.
Yeah,
But if they're not for sale, that would be why I just assume, and when you drive by them and you see all the mowed lawns, you just assume it's part of the next house.
yeah.
I'm gonna take a stab and say 80 on the low to 100 on the high end as far as that range.
Wow, that's amazing. I did not think we
Yeah,
had that much building left to go out here. It feels like it's just getting, there's just stuff popping up
Oh, yeah.
everywhere. Well,
And
that's
then-
promising.
You know, you've got another 400 plus backlots.
Oh, yeah, I was only
Yeah.
thinking of waterfront. I
Yeah.
had really thought that we were running out of waterfront lots.
No, I think we got some room
I
left.
got a bunch of them.
Are
They're all
we
sold.
You know, in a lot of these scenarios too, like this is an area, this is on Isabella Vista. You know, this house here owns these 2 vacant waterfront lots.
Hmm.
So,
So he could say he wants to put a shed there.
yeah, or they could sell these 2 more lots. I mean,
Right, we just never know.
so that 80 to 100 factors in scenarios like this where it's one under one ownership right now, but it's 3 lots,
Hmm.
you know.
Right. And that's where I think I got tricked with what was still left out there.
You know, you have a few T lots left that are out there, but. Anyway.
Okay, well,
And I guess what I'm looking at, since you guys made that definition, I'm mostly concerned with the waterfront lots. Not a lot that's not on the waterfront, that's back in one of the other streets.
Hmm.
I just-
So is that something that you guys would want to approve?
I'd approve it.
No, I mean, like, do you want for a shed on a vacant lot to be something that is staff approved based on ordinance condition or planning commission approved based on an application before you guys?
I think if you came down to the 4 or 6 plans and it met.
Yeah.
I think you would be empowered to make that decision.
So the next discussion is gonna be on which one you're gonna put in the book.
So
They got
we're,
some nice plastic sided one.
You got it. Might blow away in a bad
It's the little
windstorm.
tykes.
It meets the requirement.
It's the little tykes playhouse.
That's right.
All right, so you're gonna
Yes,
play with that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
and
Thank you, sir.
I might even be able to come up with,
so what do you look, so I'm assuming that you're looking more of trying to keep it away from the lakeside view by what you just said, or no?
Yeah, it is, it is a different view when you're back in some of the back streets, and there's a lot there. Versus when you're going down the lake and there's one right there. I mean, we've run into a couple of these already where people are trying to get their heads in.
what's left isn't controversial.
Huh?
No, that's why I'm wondering, do we
Yeah,
just?
what's
it
left
out
isn't
to
controversial, if you just wanted to-
meeting?
Be done with the review tonight. Are you guys thinking? What are you thinking size cap?
Enough to get a kayak or canoe, I would think.
Mhm.
Other than that, I mean, your typical lake stuff, but that's why I asked you about where location wise. Cause if it was me and if it was lakefront, I'd want my shed down by the lake.
We can't do that because there's restrictions.
Well, I mean, closer to the lake than the roadside. So you're not hauling all your stuff all the way to the other end of the.
I think we've got restrictions on where you can put it on the lot. I'm not making a definition between where you're gonna put the shed on the lakefront versus a non-lakefront.
Okay.
Yeah, what we got for size here for canoe?
And if you're putting one on the non-lakeside,
Length 13 feet.
How long is a kayak? 7?
That's
That's
it was
13
13 for this
13 feet.
canoe.
Oh, a kayak,
These two.
oh, sorry, I thought you were saying how big the ship was.
That's a 13-footer. It gives more.
So you'd have to have a 14-foot.
At least, yeah.
how wide is it?
And I mean, you might wanna make it big enough. for
I would
two,
think
like,
it would be.
Two kayaks or.
Yeah.
Well, now
I think
now
realistically,
you're getting a little funny looking when you're gonna do a 14-foot long and then you're gonna make it super narrow. I mean, if you're doing 14 by,
10, that's 140.
I was gonna say 8.
Yes.
Yeah, I would go bigger than that, wouldn't you? I mean, I don't know how big sheds come.
Think of whatever size you want.
You could get a,
Well,
if you went 10, you could get
How
a,
big are these sheds gonna be in the blueprint?
14 by 10.
if you get a 10, that'd be 140 square foot and you could get a roll-up door in it. Roll-up door or double doors.
Yeah, I mean, here, this is 14 by 10 sheds,
Yeah.
according to Google.
Hmm.
Cause I think ideally you would, if you were looking at, you would have one wall where you could just mount the 2 canoes or whatever up on the wall.
Mhm.
And shelving or
Might be
whatever on
nice
the other
and tall,
side,
too.
you know, something like that.
I mean, height wise and whatnot, I would think would be the same as a regular shed that you have now.
Yeah.
With 8-foot walls or whatever, but.
Yeah, cause if they're 39 inches, you could stack 2 of them on an 8-foot wall pretty
Mhm.
easily.
Yeah.
You know, you did a shed like this, it's got the end door and a front door, essentially you could put the canoes on the back wall and.
Yeah, that's probably just by looking at it with a double door, that's
Yeah, it
probably
is.
an 8-foot wide.
It's 10 by 14.
Oh, I can't read, I gotta put my glasses on, sorry.
They're all
It's an
set.
easy fit, John.
I mean, 140 square foot, I think would be fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, I like that one.
which one?
Up. Right there.
This?
The cute little.
Yeah, I live with you.
yeah, but we gotta make
The
sure
one
too,
right-
it's a storage shed,
The one right beside it.
not a.
there?
Yeah, that's the ones that he's scared
What do they
about.
call those beds that fall up?
Yeah.
Murphy bed?
Yeah, not the Murphy bed.
No.
All the explosives in that one.
That's right.
Looks like an army barrack.
You guys some really crappy like mercury lights on the inside, so everyone around you can hear that
Yeah.
from the lights. Uh-huh. Yeah,
So come up with some ideas for us.
I think there's a way to make it look nice.
Yep, signed, one permit. Man, I remember we did.
but let's see here. So sheds by ordinance, we allow to be 240.
Hmm,
But this is certainly be an exception.
Square foot, they wouldn't even need a permit.
No, we don't have any exemption like that. We require a permit for any accessory structure, shed, gazebo. 10 by 10 shed, you gotta get a permit.
Getting seasick.
I think it's the county, that you don't need a building permit if you're under 250. 250? Yeah, that's why we did our sheds at 240, so you can do a shed without even getting a building permit. Yeah, these other ones are pretty. Like G was just adding. We didn't have a design or a criteria if you're gonna build a house in these districts, we had to make it match. H was, to respond to the fencing requirements for childcare, daycare centers.
Yeah, let's be
Oh, yeah.
discussed that way.
Oh, yeah.
I is stuff to comply with the renewable energy law, so you can cite
Yep.
solar. And then J was change the impervious surface to structure coverage, and then if you got a stormwater plan, it's exempt for certain areas. Well,
Yeah, well,
realistically, I got 2 areas to change for you guys.
yes, and then the next step is it goes in front of the council.
Well, you have to have a public hearing at some point in time.
Oh, okay,
So,
so sometime first quarter.
or your next meeting, you can hold the hearing and then continue to wordsmith. Like, you don't have to have this done before you hold the hearing. There's, a somewhat logical argument that you want to hold the hearing at some point so you can get feedback to scratch your language,
Yeah.
especially because the council is also required to hold a public hearing before they take action on it, so. And I think my personal recommendation preference would be the next meeting, you need to have a hearing on the rezoning ordinance anyway. It would cut down publication costs to have one notice in the paper that had both of the hearings as opposed to 2 different notices.
And see what, 1 month in advance? Or-
15 days.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the issue that you run into is December 10th is your next meeting date. After that, it is January 14th. Not gonna break my heart if you don't want to meet in December. A lot goes on in December. I could wordsmith some of this and send it out, get feedback, the interim, and plan for a hearing in January.
I think that's what we should do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So next meeting will be January, you said 14th?
14th,
Okay, so
2025.
if you wordsmith, send it out, and then we
Work on
plan to
those
hold
2 items.
the hearing
Okay.
January 14th.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving along, we have no new business. There's still nobody online.
Oh, the computer went dark.
It went dark on.
No, not turned off at all. Nope, nobody on.
Okay, so no public comment, any member comments,
I've used up all mine.
any announcements? Okay, perfect. Well, hearing none, we're going to adjourn at 8:39 PM.